Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to Thursdays with Steve and Wayne with the Talking Pools podcast group. Hope everybody has had a really good week. Weather-wise over here in Maryland, it's been pretty nice. Low humidity for change, but it's hot. So, what do you work with? Heat, humidity, or whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm not melting. Let's put it like that. Now, out your way, it's always sunny in California.
So I always laugh and say that it's 75 and sunny. Like right now it's 10 in the morning and it's like 68 degrees, but the high is only 77 by me. So it really depends like where you are. If you get closer to like downtown LA and you get into like Silver Lake and the Valley and stuff, I have some friends up there and every day it's in the high 90s to low hundreds. So the heat is just really bad. But I live at the beach, so it's a little bit cooler. I actually have I have like an extra fan that we only really pull out in July through September, more or less, because we don't have air conditioning. I would say like more than 60 or 70% of the places here don't have air conditioning unless you have like central air. You know how by you, everybody has an individual air conditioning unit for each room that you want air conditioning in?
Yeah. For the older houses,
Jen and I, my wife just talked about this the other day because she was like, what would you do? Like if we were, because we went to Texas for a family reunion and it was really hot the first day that we got there. And she was like, what do you do? Like if your air breaks and stuff, And I was like, I guess you just suffer for a few days, but everybody has to have some sort of air conditioning or something because it gets kind of
like
brutal.
You said, you live by the beach, and I remember going to the pie show in Monterey forever.
It's like it could be free. It could be freezing.
Right, exactly. And the main hotel there, well, it used to be a DoubleTree. I don't know what it is now, but they do not have air conditioning in the rooms. They don't. Yeah. They have a great big fan on a pedestal, and that's all you need. Because I thought that was weird the first time I went there, but no, it's very, very true because it gets darn cold there in the morning, and it's right by Monterey Bay, and I always thought that was kind of weird. But like right now, it's I'm 3 hours ahead. It's a little after about 1:15 here, and it says it's 84, but I think it's hotter than that. It's supposed to get up into the low 90s by 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's living in the Mid-Atlantic area by a big bay and a big ocean.
So for Lee, Shane, and Peter, that's almost 29 degrees Celsius for all you guys down in...
all you metric people. We won't get started on that one. Anyhow, what we're going to talk about today is actually started by someone who contacted us on talkingpools@gmail.com. And he had a question about mentoring, and I'm going to read it right now, and Steve and I are going to kind of get into that. Guy's name is Garrett Breivik. I'm not sure where Garrett is located, but he was talking about last week, the episode that he was listening to, and thanked us for a good episode. And he says, really informative, especially for someone trying to break into the industry. So he had a question. With all this talk about mentorship, how can I find a mentor without it being a little awkward? And asking, how does one find a mentor? This is, I think, very well timed, Steve, because as you know, talkingpools.com is in the process of selecting a mentor, like a grand mentor, I guess. I'm not sure what Rudy is calling it, but it's a mentorship, not a contest. It's not the right word. That's the right word I'm thinking of.
It's an award.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an award.
It's an award.
Rudy basically, he said the other day that basically that, they're going to get a championship belt, and Rudy is like super into, like WWE and like wrestling and stuff. Because he's always making different references and stuff online to like Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the day, and all that. He's always wearing those shirts.
Yeah. I'm sure he's sad today, though. I don't know if you read or not, but Hulk Hogan died.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan died today. I think he's been sick for a bit too.
Yeah, it didn't say much from what I read.
It just happened today, so it was still like a breaking story. It's still the morning here and stuff. But regardless, the person who wins this award, the Mentor Award, they're going to get a championship belt from basically like the same people that, make the WWE belt. So it's going to be like a legitimate championship belt, which is super cool. And I don't even know who the people are. I'm so excited to see because, like I said, we voted on it, and we didn't get to see who the people were. We
No.
just got to see their backgrounds and all that stuff. So it's actually going to be just as much as a surprise for us.
It was all the names and like company information. They were all redacted. So all we basically got was the narrative of why they felt they deserved the award. And it was funny when I was talking to Rudy about this. I said, I think I kind of recognize some of these people.
I played that game too, and I said 2 different people to him on 2 different ones. And he said no on both. And maybe he was pulling my chain. I don't know. But like, I was just like, what? I was like, I was so sure that it was, this person or whoever it was. Because I was like, I know this background and I know that like, they work for this type of a company or whatever it is. I was wrong on both. I was like, oh man. I was like, all right.
I didn't give him any names, but I said, I think I recognize some of these people. And he said, oh yes, you do. So
well, you have a couple years on me in the industry too. So, these people aren't people that are a couple years into the industry. These are all very seasoned veterans who either have owned their own companies or run big companies or different things like that. So once you get into, you're a C-suite executive for whatever type of a company that you're in, you know what I mean? You've been, this isn't your first rodeo.
No, this is my first rodeo.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
So
getting back to Garrett's question, and it's really, really good. How do you find a mentor? Let me start first because I think I've mentioned this before. When I started at Taylor back in the fall of '91, honestly, I came to Taylor with no information, no knowledge, no nothing. I mean, my only advantage was I knew how to write, and that's what I did for him originally. But as I evolved into doing all the technical work and things like that, our Canadian distributor at that point was Lowry & Associates. And so Neil Lowry, the owner, rest in peace, Neil, he passed away in 2006. Neil became my mentor, and he would be the person I would go to ask questions. And in my case, it was more about chemistry and testing and things of that nature, but not so much the business end of thing, because a mentor is not just someone who has a specific scope of information, like chemistry, testing, period, nothing else. We're talking about everything involved. And that's where I think you come in contact with, Steve, is that, not only do you do your job, but you own a business. So you have to hopefully rely on information or knowledge that you've learned yourself, or maybe ask around, see if there's somebody that can help guide you, right?
Right. I want to, before I answer that though, that was an awesome question. I have a question for you.
Okay.
When you started with Neil, did you have a conversation? And I think that this is what he wants us to talk about too, Garrett, is just because like, did you have that conversation of like, hey, would you want to be my mentor? And I don't think that that's a conversation that even really comes up. I think it's more, most of the time you're like, hey, like, do you mind if I give you a call for some questions or something like that?
And that's exactly what it was. I didn't come out and say, Neil, please be my mentor. No,
right. I don't think it
work that way.
I think that's weird. That's like, like what we were saying before in the group the other day. We were like, who's your daddy? We said,
who's your daddy? Right.
It's like just something weird to say, but has nothing to do with what we're talking about with mentorship. But it was just a funny sidebar. But so I think that, with what I do and especially with the CPO classes, everyone that comes through the CPO class, like I actually give them my personal cell phone number. You're paying a lot of money to take a class with me. There's a lot of other people that teach the class. So like, I really appreciate that. And, the biggest compliment for me that I always tell people at the end of the class, like I tell them, we're going to send you a link if you want to write a review for our company. I was like, I do not expect you to do that. But I was like, the one thing that I do ask you is if you did learn a lot, because I've been basically talking at them for the last 8 hours, right?
Right.
And I'm like, if you learned a lot today, and you didn't pay for the class, because a lot of these people, their boss is paying, no one's like, oh, I can't wait to take CPO in 2 weeks with Steve. Most of these people, their boss is like, hey, we paid for this class for you. You're going to it on this day. Here's your books, have fun. If you learn stuff, go back and tell that person that, that we knocked it out of the park and we did a good job, because the greatest compliment that you could give someone is you continue to send your people to them or do business with them. So I always really go out of my way to make sure that if someone has questions or something like that, because a lot of these people are coming into the industry very new, And I totally understand that. So I just tell them that like, hey, you know, when you get your CPO, basically this is the beginning of your education. This isn't the end of your education. So I do offer to actually be a mentor. And I don't say, oh, I'll be your mentor, but I say like, hey, if you have any questions, you know, my phone is open for you and I'll promise to get back to you. And there are people that do take me up. I would say like probably like 10% of the people will give me a call and they'll be like, hey, you know, we took the class with you a few months ago. And sometimes I'm like, I don't remember that person. And then there's other times where like, I'm like, I remember exactly who you are, you know? Because
let me give you my perspective. When I retired from Taylor in September of 22, I remember I got a call from somebody, might have even been from you, and it was a technical call, and I answered it. And my wife said, "Why are you answering calls? You don't work there anymore." And I said, No. There are only a small handful of people who have my private cell phone number, and I said I will continue to respond to them, you know, whenever they call. Because to them, I'm one of their sources. I'm one of their mentors. In this case, it was for chemistry or testing.
Right.
And like, you're on that list, and there's at least a dozen more. And this is not people that, you know, I'm involved with at PHTA or any of the other groups that I'm involved with. These are people that I taught CFCPO to. Yeah. Or maybe a CPO instructor.
You were my CPO instructor when I became an instructor. You were on the, you sat there and watched me teach at the beginning, you know?
Steve surfing the skies, chasing that thrill. Kite in the wind, but he's mastering the drill. Thursdays with Wayne and Steve, dropping knowledge bombs, you better believe. From chemistry tips to repairs that impress, making pool care easier, helping you progress. Wayne's the legend, the master of tests, ruler of regions, he's simply the best. With titration skills that'll make your head spin. When it comes to water, he knows how to win. Thursdays with Wayne and Steve, dropping knowledge bombs, you better believe. From chemistry tips to repairs that impress, making pool care easier, helping you progress. Whitman installation, they've got you covered. From filters to pumps, every pool is discovered. With passion and heart, they're sharing their art, making swimming pool businesses hit the chart. Thursdays with Wayne and Steve, dropping knowledge bombs, you better believe. From chemistry tips to repairs that impress, making pool care easier, helping you progress. Miss a beat with Wayne and Steve, it's the ultimate feat. Together they rock, making waves in the scene. With the Talking Pools podcast, living the dream.
Make your voice heard. Join the Council for the Model Aquatic Health Code. Lend your expertise to the MAC. Science-based guidance from the CDC and the only all-inclusive national pool code that addresses current aquatic issues. Learn more at cmac.org. That's cmahc.org.
The mobile WaterLink Spin Touch allows pool and spa professionals the ability to test water in the field. A patented WaterLink Spin reagent disc is used with the innovative photometer to measure 10 different tests in just 60 seconds. That's right, just 60 seconds, and you'll have results displayed simultaneously on the photometer's touchscreen. That's not all. You also have the ability to send the data through Bluetooth into a smartphone or a tablet device. The photometer can measure free chlorine, bromine, total chlorine, combined chlorine, pH, alkalinity, hardness, cyanuric acid, copper, iron, phosphate, borate, biguanide shock, and salt. The water analysis can be proactive since they are able to measure all of these important tests and recommend correct procedures to fix their water chemistry issues when using our WaterLink Solutions Pro software program. It allows pool and spa analysts the best way to achieve precise results. So simple, anyone can use it. This is the most advanced system for precise use of wet chemistry methods ever produced. Pool and spa analysts can achieve precision without time-consuming tests or cleanup procedures. This groundbreaking analysis system is so simple, no vials to fill, no prep time, no guessing. To learn more about this innovative lab, visit www.waterlinkspintouch.com. Again, www.waterlinkspintouch.com.
10. 10. They've inspired, they've empowered, they've changed lives. One pool route, one lesson, one rising star at a time. 10. 10. 10. This isn't just recognition, it's a revolution in mentorship. Out of nearly 70 powerhouse nominees across the country, only 10 have risen to the top. 10 mentors who lead by example. 10 who give without asking. 10 who make this industry better every single day. And next week, we reveal their names. 10. 10. Get ready to meet the 10 badasses of 2025. The elite, the educators, the selfless legends of the Talking Pools Podcast Mentor of the Year Award. You think you know who made the cut, but you're not ready. Tune in next week, because the best in the biz are about to take center stage. And trust us, you'll want to say, you knew them before they made history. Mentorship just got legendary.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Insurance Interlude with California Pool Association. So, welcoming back Pat Grignon from California Pool Association, one of our flagship sponsors. And when we talk about insurance, it's always funny to talk about other people's claims, right? But it's never funny for something to happen to you. Unfortunately, there are different times where, people will do things and it's out of your control, where you're at a client's house or you're at a hotel or you're at a homeowners association and there's other people working there or doing another job on site, or could be landscaping. It could be, something where someone left the gate open. But again, these are swimming pools and people can get very hurt and people can drown. So I wanted to bring Pat on today to talk about one of the claims that they had where basically everybody got pulled into it. But it was pretty serious. So I'll let Pat take it away. But I just wanted to, bring this up. And, sometimes it's funny stories and sometimes it's serious stuff like it is today. So Pat, tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate you having me back. Yeah, we talk, you and I talk about claims, and a lot of them have a funny tinge to them, or there's some sort of clearly scam going on behind it. But yeah, one of the real bad ones that we had was in Southern California. It was actually at an apartment complex. And, they were getting their equipment repaired by a different company, and our insured was the regular service company, that would come and test the levels and chems and all that stuff. But so they were working on the heater in the equipment room. The other company was. Our insured was there just to test the levels and get it in the book. And then left. Was just there on site for 10, 15 minutes. And what had happened was the company in the equipment shed, the company that was working on it, not our insured again, they left the gas on and the heater disconnected. and that was like that for the afternoon and evening. So, they made a bad mistake. So cut to one of the worst mistakes, right? So cut to later in the day, in the early evening, and pretty, we had a mom with her young daughter in the spa, and the equipment shed, it exploded. It was a big explosion. It was full of gas at that point. So luckily, they both survived the incident, but mom was pretty badly burned, and so she got recommended, I think a total of 9 surgeries, and it was pretty serious. And then obviously you've got a case there for the daughter seeing it and being scarred for life and that whole thing. So it was big. I mean, you had everybody getting pulled into this thing, even our insured, who was just there to check chems and levels and make a note of it and was in and out. We ended up, every insurance company, the association, the company with the equipment repair, our insured, every company paid full limits on that. So, $1 million per occurrence policy, again, $800, less than $800 a year. The company stroked the check for $1 million on that one. And, that's how serious this stuff can get. And, whether it was his fault or otherwise, I mean, that's a slam dunk. Any jury in America is going to award a lot of money to the mom and to that family. So, again, it can get pretty serious and pretty ugly. That's one of the worst ones we've had.
Now, that's obviously a super terrible situation. There's nothing that your insured could have done differently, when you look back on these things. And we always have these, we call them teaching lessons, right? So, with my employees and my partners and stuff, like sometimes I'll have something happen, like I shouldn't have done that, or that was stupid, or we had a whole podcast one time and it was called Do What I Mean, Not What I Say. I had a guy one time, and back when we had a management company, and he called me on from the pool phone from the the landline.
Yeah,
and he tells me, he's like the tablet feeder's empty, right? So he tells me that the tablet feeder is empty. I got like 8 phone calls going on. I'm in the middle of a meeting. I'm like, what do? I'm like, you fill it up. Like, is there anything else that you want to, anything else you need to ask? And he filled it up with granular chlorine instead of tablet.
Wow.
And you know what happened? It pressurized and it blew up.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, nobody was in the room and nobody was hurt. So, as far as insurance claims, like nothing really came of it with that. But that's negligence on his part and probably on my part too, when you look back at it. But my point here is that, number one, it's not always you. So it could be your employee, it could be one of your partners, it could be one of your subcontractors. It doesn't even have to be, you. And accidents are going to happen, right? So when something like this, super serious happens, you always look back and you want to say, what could we have done better? But, the truth of the matter is that with this, there's nothing that he could have done because he wasn't the one that actually did anything wrong.
Yeah. What they dragged him in with was that while he was in the equipment room and he probably, ran into the heater or kicked the line, and that's what dislodged it and started the leak, which he wasn't even in that side of the equipment shed or building. So yeah, I mean, that's all it takes. If you're wrong place, wrong time, that's it.
Wow. So yeah, this is pretty serious, man. So like I said, you guys really have to make sure that every time you're and this goes into every time you go into a pump room, that you're looking at, that you just open your eyes and your ears. And I always say, I always stand there for just a couple minutes and I just kind of look around and I look for leaks, and I can't tell you how many times I'll just be like, oh, that's weird over there. And then I'll go over there and I'm like, oh man, like this is fucked up over here, So not that this guy should have done that by any means. An accident is an accident, obviously, but protect yourselves as best you guys can out there to make sure that you guys are buttoned down with all of your safety equipment and bonding and grounding wires and, gates and all that stuff, because all it takes is a few minutes of somebody turning the other way or something happening, and you have an accident like this happen.
Yeah, pretty easy to snap a picture or two with your phone. All you have to do is identify the hazard, send it to the property manager, send it to the homeowner, and say, hey, this isn't right. I can fix it, or do you want a referral to fix it, or hey, you need to get this fixed. It's a problem.
Right.
And at that point, you've got a picture, you've got a timestamp, you got a record.
that brings up a huge point though. So if I was the insured and that happened to me and I had went into the pump room and said, whoa, like this is serious, and I snapped a picture of that and sent it to them, would that have cleared him from liability, you think, or no?
Yeah, I mean, look, so if he walks into the pump room, sees that it's disconnected, certainly, this one was so bad that probably something would have got paid. But yeah, I mean, look, if you see something's wrong, you got to identify the hazard and let the property owner know. And odds are normally you would be excused from the lawsuit if you can prove that you didn't do it.
This is something that I preach all the time, that when something is broken for your client, that you take a picture of it and you show them the broken one and you show them the new one, right? Just so they know what they're paying for. And then also I've had it happen where I had a meeting one time with like a city worker and there was 3 of us there. And he said, I was like, hey, this pool is going to fill up really quick. I'm like, as soon as they're done working, they're going to fill it up. And it's going to be filled up in like less than 5 hours. So it's 3:00. You're here till when? 9:30, you said. So can you watch the pool and, turn it off when it gets up to the appropriate level? And they all gave me the yes. They looked me in the eyes. They said, yeah. 2 different guys said, yeah. And I, as soon as I left in my car, I sent an email and I said, hey, Mr. City Worker number 1 and Mr. City Worker number 2, they confirmed that they are going to turn off the water when it gets to the appropriate place. Do you think they did?
City workers.
So they overflow the pool, right? And it goes into the pump room and the brand new 10 horsepower pump is totally flooded underwater. And I get a call at 10 o'clock at night. Like, what did you do?
Yep.
And I was like, oh. So guys, the lesson here is, it is 2025. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has text message. Everybody has a camera and everybody has email. So if you see something, say something. And it sounds dumb, but like this is what we're having these insurance interludes for, to make sure that you and your team, that you can, number 1, that you can talk about this stuff. And number 2, that you guys can protect yourselves. So Pat, what a great segment today. And, even though it was real serious, we figured out a way that in the future, there's stuff that you can do to fix it. And it's take some damn pictures, huh? So let's do the right thing out there and let's get some insurance. And we'd love for you to check out California Pool Association. And we thank you for being with us for another insurance interlude. So we'll see you very, very soon. Thank you for coming. And thanks, Pat, again, for sharing your insurance interlude stuff with us.
No, I appreciate it, Steve. Thank you for having me.
So for Garrett, like this just goes to show you that like Wayne is already retired. I'm 20 years in the business, but I've only owned my own company for a decade, right? So like it feels just like yesterday I was just out there doing pools on my own before we had employees and, all this stuff. But I'm doing a show with my mentor, with one of my mentors, and I still use him as a source all the time. And again, that's something that at the beginning, I think that's when we really met and that's when I started using you as a person of interest, right? Because that's because I had a lot of stuff happen in class where we would have a chemistry question and someone would ask and I would be like, you know what? That is an amazing question, but I have no idea what the answer is.
But I know somebody who does.
Right. And then you come back at the next break and you have the answer for it. And it's, it's perfect. So for me, like, if I was starting out and I was looking for a mentor, I would really start going to these local class. And the shows are great. The shows are great to like network. Like there's people that I see at the shows now and we'll like hang out at the show and stuff together. And I met them through CPO, or like there's this one guy who works in private equity and he, his goal is to have like 10,000 pools in like, the next 10 years. And he constantly, not constantly, but he calls me a lot just to like say, hey, what's going on? And like, he sends his guys through CPO, which I really appreciate. But anytime he has a question or he has something that he's like, hey, this is a bit over my head. Like, can you, what would we do with this situation? And sometimes you go, like sometimes people will use each other as a mentor. Like my plasterer with like starting up pools and stuff, like they had a problem with their like starting up pools for a while and like they brought me in and like I figured out some stuff for them and it was just out of the box that they weren't thinking like, hey, they shouldn't be using this product. And like I gave them an alternative product to use, and it worked out perfect. I just went up to the Palisades yesterday, and I went to a pool and I inspected it, and I didn't know like what to say at the end. And that's usually not my reaction when I go to a pool. And this pool, it had been, all the houses around it were burned. This house is like one of the only houses standing on the block. And the backyard is like kind of like a mess, but the backyard has like a pool, and then next to the pool it has 3 trees that are like planted, and like then there's a driveway, and like the driveway is like 6 inches, the concrete's like 6 inches over where like there's a slab coming up, like Superman was standing on one side of the slab and the other side is like up in the air.
Right.
The coping, there was just settling around the whole pool because the 1 gallon of water weighs 8.33 pounds. It was probably a 30,000 gallon pool. There's a lot of weight holding this pool into the ground. And around the pool was just these slabs of concrete, and the roots from the tree on the one side were growing. So the pool guy actually had worked really hard to get the pool clean and clear. So the pool water is now clean and clear. They definitely need a resurface. You can see there's like staining from the fire and stuff on the bottom, which also looks kind of like copper staining, but it's definitely also from the fire too. But the tile isn't connected to the coping. Like there's areas where the coping, underneath the coping, like it's not sealed. So there's gaps ranging from like a 1/2 inch to like 2 inches around the whole pool. So it's just like, so I called the lady after I was done, because I always talk to them first before I'm going to write a report and put some numbers to it. And then they're like, what is this, And it's a weird situation because you can resurface the pool, which would probably be covered by insurance. And you could retile the tile line, which should be covered by insurance. But then you can't redo the tile without redoing the coping.
Right.
Because the coping is not actually touching the tile on the top. So, because she was asking, can we just do the tile and the stuff that the insurance is going to pay for? And I was like, yeah, we could do it, but that's going to be a real shitty job. And I was like, even if we do the coping now, I was like, let's say we reset the coping. I'm like, all of the decking around the coping is not even. So I was like, this stuff is going to be, we're going to do this. And then in a few months, it's going to look just like this. So I was like, you really have to, redo the whole backyard. And they were like, man, like, we're not going to do that for, whatever it's going to be $100,000. But now you get into like real serious money. But here's the question. And like, I've worked with a bunch of insurance companies before, and the way that it kind of works is like, if something touches something and that's part of that, like they'll usually take that. But like now we're saying, hey, the pool needs to be resurfaced, but because the pool needs to be resurfaced, the tile needs to be redone. And because the tile needs to be redone, the coping also needs to be redone.
Domino thing, yeah.
And now it's a whole backyard project that if we're excavating these 3 trees, like these are 3 like grown trees, so it was just one of the situations where I left and I was like, I know that like the fire didn't affect the deck, but, and my question, I guess, my question to one of my mentors who's my plasterer, I'm going to go to them and say like, is it possible for us to do just the coping and everything else and not do the deck? And it like, you think that it's going to be like an okay job, but it's a situation of like, I don't know what the insurance is really going to pay for, like, but I'm just going to put a number to it and kind of see what happens.
Right. So
it could kind of go either way. Sometimes people have really good coverage and they're like, you know what, we'll take care of all this. But when does that become like a stretch, right? And this is an answer that I don't know. And I know that when I was writing reports back with the San Fernando Valley fires 5 years ago with the insurance company told me, they were like, when this happens, we normally will take care of the whole thing just because of that domino effect, So and I didn't want to sidebar too much on that story. It's just, I just had that happen. So it was super relevant to like what we're talking about.
But it explains stuff. And it shows that if you don't know the answer to a question, somebody who will. And that's what happened. In my case, when I used to get technical calls and emails I didn't have emails when I started with Taylor. That's how fucking old I am. Anyhow, But I would especially start getting questions about, pumps and filters and all the other stuff that really doesn't have anything to do with then water testing or chemistry.
Right.
But yet I would answer it. And I remember my then boss going, "Why are you answering those kind of questions? You don't deal with them." And I said, "Yeah, but I know enough information to give them an answer, or I know who to go to get an answer." And I had a whole slew of people back in the day that, I know I would go to this guy if there was a filtration question, this guy if there was an electrical question, this guy did plumbing, that kind of thing. So I had like a little committee of mentors that I would go to, other than Neil, who was my overall one,
Right.
who could get that information for me. And as you said, you develop that camaraderie, you develop that business acumen by going to local meetings, by going to local shows, by going to larger trade shows, by getting out there and meeting people. I mean, I've done shows, you've been to shows, you see what it's like there. It's like mayhem sometimes, but you get to meet the people who say, like, manufacture the pump that you like using, and you go to them with questions or something like that. You know who to go to.
I love the shows to do a few different things. And Garrett, it really depends like what you're looking for. But no matter what you're looking for, you always need to be able to lean on some of the manufacturers. And like, on the East Coast, Hayward was a bit king. Here in California, like there's everything. So you could go to an equipment pad and it might have a Hayward something, a Jandy this, and then a Pentair this, and it's a complete mishmash of stuff going on in the backyard, So it just really depends. But when you go to these shows, all the groups on Facebook. So, if you're in any of these like certified pool operator groups, or, there's like the 14 PSI one is really good. They'll usually have some sort of a meetup. And I like being able to like talk to somebody first and be like, oh, like we're going to meet up at this restaurant at this time. You know what I mean? And then like 20 people meet at a bar, and you can like actually like, BS with some people. Also, like when you take the classes at the shows, you're sitting next to like a bunch of different people that are sitting there for 2 hours with you, So like you get a chance to kind of like introduce yourself to those people.
Right.
Like I went to the Raypack show not too long ago, not a show, but just one of their classes for gas heaters. And because I was like answering so many questions at one of the breaks, like 3 different guys came over to me and they were like, "Hey man, like how, like, what do you do?" And they were like, they just started talking to me and they were like, "Hey, like," and I told them that I do teaching, and they were like, "Yeah, it sounds like you teach." They were like, "It's," and then I told them about the podcast, and they were like, "Man, we would love to listen to the podcast," and I was just like, "Hey, if you ever have any questions or anything, you could call me as well too." But the guys from Raypack, like, those are the commercial guys. So anytime I have like a few commercial jobs and a few commercial questions and stuff, and we put in a lot of their heaters, and sometimes we have problems. So you have to go to these people to call. So it's also a really great time because all of their like head trainers and all of their like tech guys and sales guys and all those reps are going to be there. So they will introduce you to your individual rep. And, at the classes, these guys who are teaching the classes, like they are mentors as well too. So they'll usually give you their business card, and you can be like, "Hey, if I ever have any problems, that you can call them." So that's what the shows are really for, to network and to be able to, number one, see the new products that are coming out, but also be able to kind of mingle with some of these people that you might not be able to see on like a day-to-day basis. But the individual, like, hey, the heater show for Raypack, or Jandy's coming to show you about automation, or Pentair's coming to do a little, hey, let's work on this day. Those I think are really great because now you have people that are coming that are really local. And then also when you just go to the distributor, like sometimes the distributor is really busy, right? And like you see all these guys coming in with all these trucks and stuff. And like, I mean, I always talk to a bunch of different people, but again, like I said, it really depends, like what are you looking to do, right? And like at the beginning, I was looking to make more money. Like I was looking for more revenue sources. So again, if you're just cleaning pools and something happens, like in Andrea's show this past week, she had said that like this guy bought a route and he had a salt cell, and the homeowner took it out and showed him and was like, "Hey, like, what's this? Don't you clean this?" And he was like, "Oh no, like we don't take care of that." And it obviously he has to take care of that, but the reason why he didn't, either because he wasn't educated on it, Or, of course he wants to make $50 or, $25. Like some people charge $75 to clean salt cells.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can charge whatever you want, really, whatever but that's my whole point, that like, if you're not comfortable going and, taking the pilot out of the heater and messing with the pilot or changing the high limit sensors and all that stuff, like you could learn from a YouTube video, but my suggestion is it is way easier to partner with someone. And at the beginning for these jobs, like you have them come out and you go and meet them at the job and you have them do the job and you just work out. It's really important that you talk about, not like, oh, we're just going to figure it out. You need to be like, hey, like, you tell me how much you need to make for this job or whatever. And I'll pay you that. And then I'll collect from the client or whatever it is.
Yeah.
However you want to work it out is fine. But I have a lot of guys who, they want to learn how to install sand filters, but they've never installed a sand filter before. So they'll say to me like, hey, I'm not comfortable selling a sand filter yet, but like you've pretty much sold me on, these are the ones that I should be using. So the next time that you go out, can you go out with me? Like that, like you can say to somebody too, like, hey, the next time you go out and do one of those jobs, like, can I come out as your helper? You just give me a few days in advance and I'll make my schedule so it works and I'll come out and I'll watch you install it. Like some people will let you do that.
Yep.
And then I've had people where they've come through class and it's hard to have them go out with my guys. Like I've done that before and I don't like that so much. Like I'd rather someone go out with me. I'd rather like pick a day and like go out to some pools and kind of like show them what to do. But that does get hard because like I've had a lot of people where they're like, hey, can we do like like we used to offer like a ride along. And then like it got kind of crazy because people were like, hey, like, can we come on the ride along? And we're like 2 weeks back on work. And, we're just like, man, like this isn't really the time. This kind of sucks. So I've like ixed all summer, any of that, in the wintertime, if you want to come out with us or something like that. And then Garrett, like I'm also, Wayne has a pretty close circle at this point, but like I'm always available in a sense that like if you ever do have questions or something like that. Also, like the Facebook groups are really, really, really good. Some of them, they get a little heated sometimes. And sometimes there's like stuff that I'm just like, oh, man, like I wish we didn't have to deal with this.
Yeah.
But that's the internet, right? That's going to be in any corner of the internet that you're on, whether you're on a Reddit site or different things like that. There are some cool, like, and I hate to talk about like there's like trouble-free pools, like, you know what I mean? Like you have to be careful about like reading stuff like that on the internet because there are a lot of like the moderators and stuff that are in there. Some of them are good and they do know what they're talking about. But I just read a thread and I think it was like in saltwater pools and like, so like I just read like 25 comments and like it was all people just saying the same wrong thing over and over and over again. Yeah. And like I didn't even want to go on and be like, hey, you guys are actually just talking out of your asses right now. Like you have no idea what you're talking about, but like I didn't want to, because then people are going to, you have 25 people, like one of them is going to come back and be like, nah.
Yeah. I always found that a really good place to learn and to make connections and to network is when a distributor has an open house or they have they brought in somebody like me, and I've done these, many of them over the years, over the decades, where I would go in and just spend the day at the distributor location, and maybe they'll give me a table, I'll set up some test kits, that kind of thing. As the people come in and they see me there, or the distributor has marketed that, hey, Wayne from Taylor is going to be here on such and such a day between blank and blank. Come on out, say hi to Wayne, have a donut, eat a hot dog, that kind of thing. And that's not me eating them, it's them. I thought that was a great way for people to talk to, like you said, manufacturers, reps, people who know what they're talking about in a certain topic. And I found those to be great. The other thing too is like IPSA meetings. So
they call those tabletops usually, right? Yeah. So like where the distributor comes in for the day, and they'll usually have a product that they're either like launching, or something, they have something new that they want to show you, or whatever. So
did hundreds of them probably over the course of my time there. But
no, the IPSA meetings that you just said, the IPSA meetings are great too.
Because I've done those too, where I've gone in, there's been an IPSA meeting, and maybe I've talked for an hour, 45 minutes after the meeting, or even during the meeting, about chemistry and testing and things like that, trying to keep it as generic as possible. But, I wear a Taylor shirt, and on the screen are pictures of Taylor products and things like that. But you try to be as generic as possible because you don't want to show, especially now that I'm retired and I'm involved in PHTA and all that crap, you got to be as neutral as possible. But, on this particular program, yay, Lamont, thank you for sponsoring us. Good guys. Get a pat on the back on that one. There are mechanisms, Garrett, that you can use and availabilities for you to find the right people to be that resource for you. And if you want to call a mentor a resource, that's fine. I think that's a good thing to call them. But you're going to develop those, and it's not an instantaneous thing. I mean, look at Steve. It took him a number of years to find the right people, to know who to go to get an answer for some question that he might not have the answer to. And I was the same way when I started. So there's just a ton of variety of different ways that you can seek somebody out.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely there is for sure. But again, I think it just comes down to like what you're really looking to accomplish, and if you want to hire people, talk to people that have hired people before. Talk to the guy that owns the company that has a bunch of people that work for his company. Like, hey, how did you find your people? Because part of the biggest thing is like, when you work for yourself, it's one thing. Like you could always, use tech support as your mentor. Tech support's always going to be open from 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever it is. So you can always call them and say, hey, I'm having a problem here. I'm sitting in front of this particular machine. Can you walk me through this? But like the ongoing things of like, how do you hire your first person, and different things like that. Like that's something that you can only really get educated through either, you could read about it, but like no one's really like specific unless it's you're that elusive $1 Million Pool Man book, right? That they show you at all the shows, and they're like, you can't buy this anywhere. And then you look it up, you're like, is this book $750?
I know.
Like, what does it say in this book? It's like, but that's more for like when you wanna sell your pool route and different things like that. Like that goes more into that.
Yeah.
But
I remembered another source. Garrett, you want to go to this? PHTA has a mentorship program. It just kind of popped into my head that if you go to the phta.org website and you do the search for mentorship, there's a program that they sponsor where they can hook you up with somebody within the industry that says, yeah, I'll be a mentor for somebody. And you can establish that connection there. But phta.org is the website you want to go to. And I'm on it now on my other screen, and I'm trying to find where the mentorship program is on one of the subtitles. And of course, I can't find it, but you can always give them a call and get some more information about it. Their phone number is area code 703-838-83. That's 703-838-0083. And that area code is a Virginia area code. They're actually in Alexandria. So you all out there on the western side of life, be conscious of the time changes, but you can also send them a message too. But yeah, they just started this about maybe 6-7 months ago, I believe. But I think that might be another source for you to look for, to find somebody. And it's all going to depend on you. Some people are uncomfortable approaching that subject. They're shy, they're whatever, they're introverted, whatever. But this might be another avenue for you, Garrett, to try to find somebody that can be your mentor in a variety of different topics.
And too, this goes for all the people out there that are trying to better themselves in the pool industry, that are looking for mentors and different things like that. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of people out there that are always willing to help. And I think that more than not, that anytime I've went and I've needed something, like you have to really just ask for it.
Right.
And like the worst thing that's happened, I've went up to people and I've asked them something and they brushed me off, or I asked them a question and they totally didn't answer it. I've had that happen before too, but for me, like I'll go up and I'll ask anybody anything, So I think that's more sometimes I'll ask things where people are like, I don't want to say that to like that's not your business or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but I'm not saying like asking like, oh, like how much money you make or anything like that. But like there's just certain things that people don't want to, disclose. And like I've found kind of like in the not inspection part of it, but kind of in like the expert witness part of it, that like some people, to become an expert witness, you have to have like expert witness stuff, right? But when 97% of the cases don't make it to court, you could be an expert witness and like worked on 10 cases and actually never went to court, which is crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like it's and the people that have been to court or do like bigger jobs and stuff like that, you know, they will kind of be like, no, like we're they're not very willing to help. But that's like one specific like side of the industry where people are like, hey, like this is what we do and we want to keep this close to, you know, but that's again, like when you get into a situation, now you can go to someone and they will more than happily take a case for you. You know, they want the case and then you can help them work on it. Is really what happens, you know. But again, like the mentorship thing that we're doing, I think it's really important that, you know, everybody that's in the industry just be a little bit more helpful to everybody and, you know, take that time to make sure that people are doing these things right. And I, you know, for me, like my team and I talk about it all the time. And it's something that, you know, even we once in a while have to like go back and figure it out. Like we're having a lot of changes where like one of my guys is like has an internship that he just got with school. So like now like his days are getting changed all over the place. So we got to change like 7 different clients, different pools and stuff. And, you know, when you do something like that, you really have to communicate that like we're coming this week on Friday and then next week we're coming on Thursday. And then your permanent day is now going to be Wednesday with a different guy. You know, it's a lot of moving parts. So you just got to make sure that communication is key, right? We always talk about that.
Yeah. So Garrett, I hope we've answered your question and we appreciate it very much. And as a thank you, we'd like to send you a little gift. So if you wouldn't mind, and hopefully you're listening, you better be listening, go ahead and send your shipping address to talkingpools@gmail.com and we'll get a little gift out to you as a thank you. And we appreciate it greatly. And Steve, I guess it actually shows that people do listen to us sometimes.
So
and I know, did you see the other day that what Rudy sent around that we are
that we're in the top 1.5% of like all podcasts, which is really, really amazing. Again, I have no idea most of the time who's listening. Obviously, you know, when people see you in person, sometimes they'll be like, oh, the show's awesome and stuff. So we really do appreciate you guys listening out there. But the biggest thing is like we are down to pretty much talk about whatever is good and going on. So like for Garrett asked a question and we just did a whole damn episode for him.
Yeah.
So, you know, ask these questions, you know, put them into us and, you know, we'll talk about it on air. If it gets good enough, maybe we'll even bring you on.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be fun. That would be really embarrassing for some people, I think. So again, the email address is talkingpools@gmail.com. And like Steve said, any questions, comments, suggestions for topics, we're always open for that kind of information. So please feel free to send it out. We know you guys and gals are busy out there and we appreciate you all very much. We thank you for listening and we'll be talking at you next week. Take care.